left off. That don't really make sense, but I'll rethink of something later. I just continued on from where we left off. That sounds better. Okay, let's see what this is all about.
All right, the Kino Mojo is back. Now,
This
we've
is
been sold out five
Sasha
times
Banks
now
with the
for
real
good
bidding
reason.
war.
This stuff works.
Sasha Banks,
The
Mercedes
bidding war of
1-8.
2024 was supposed to be MJF, but it looks like that talk has been cooled down. And maybe that's largely due to the fact that a lot of people believe that he has re-signed with AEW. And if you asked me a year ago, would we be talking about Mercedes Varnado instead, I would call you a liar. But here is the reality. It's 2024. We're just 5 days in. And for weeks, all we have seen is mixed reports about Mercedes Varnado. Now, some of you might know her as Mercedes Varnado. Some of you might know her as Mercedes Moné, or you might know her as Sasha Banks. And in this video, I'm probably just going to call her Sasha Banks because that's the name I've known her as for a very, very long time. But here's the real thing that you guys need to understand. There's a big reason as to why Mercedes is the true bidding war of 2024. Like I said, it's not MJF. It's Mercedes.
I mean, I don't like it.
Weeks ago, WWE was reportedly in talks with Mercedes to come back to the company. Then, a few weeks later, there was a report that came out that suggested the talks died down, and WWE is no longer in talks with Mercedes. And then what's really even more interesting is that there was talks that WWE expected Mercedes to show up elsewhere. People watched Dynamite this past week, and we got the great debut of Deonna Purrazzo, but we didn't see Mercedes Moné show up. And then, very interestingly, Spotify and Apple Music removed Mercedes Moné's music that she was using in Japan. Typically, that is a sign that happens when WWE signs a talent. Now, in this case, I honestly don't know where Mercedes is going to go. It could be WWE, it could be AEW, but I actually think this is the biggest bidding war ever in pro wrestling. And that might sound like a very big, bold, aggressive statement, but look at all of the mixed reports surrounding Sasha. There's even some rumors that perhaps AEW and Sasha has not come to terms with an agreement. And I think regardless of how this ends up, the reality is she is going to get paid a lot of money. Now, if you're a Sasha Banks hater or if you're a tribalist, that's cool. Do your thing. I know you're going to write your comments and not even really listen to a fraction of this video. But I think people really need to understand what is happening here. When I talk about a healthy wrestling industry, my friends, this is the exact reason as to why.
I know. I
Sasha Banks went to Japan, did a couple things, got injured, and it's very unfortunate, and it sucks to see that. But even despite all that, WWE and AEW are willing to spend a lot of money. Now, Endeavor and WWE obviously have a lot of money. And Tony Khan, we all know he has a lot of money. Let's take booking out of the equation. Let's take creative out of the equation. Let's do all that. Let's take all of the formalities out of the way. Let's not talk about women's division and women's booking. I don't care to discuss that right now. We could talk about that later. But right now, we got to discuss why Mercedes is wanting so much money and why she's going to get the money that she wants. And it comes down to one thing, man. Mercedes is very smart. Mercedes has realized that there is life outside of pro wrestling. That is why Mercedes has taken on outside projects. And, you know, some companies are a little bit better about this and some companies aren't, right? WWE, they like being involved. And AEW, they just kind of let you do your own thing while you work for them. In WWE, you work more dates. In AEW, you work less. It's not about that. Mercedes can go at a high rate. If she wants to work more dates, she can. If she doesn't want to work more dates, she doesn't have to. This doesn't come down to really much more than money. And WWE and AEW have to really just look at the status of Mercedes and realize she can make a lot of change. She can make a lot of change for both companies. And I think a lot of people are,
I feel like she could make
man, maybe they just don't see the vision. I don't know. But Mercedes is a talent who is not only good in the ring, but also good on the microphone. And then also, you know, dabbling into acting and outside stuff. There's a lot of crossover mainstream potential with Mercedes Varnado. There's a reason why WWE wants her back. And if you're AEW, if you're Tony Khan, there's a reason why you don't want her to go to WWE. You're trying to establish your women's division. You're trying to get it back on track. And when somebody of this caliber becomes a free agent, no matter all of those things that we were saying earlier about creative and business and all this stuff, that's from a fan's perspective, you guys could debate amongst yourselves, but from a business perspective, you never leave a free agent on the table without making a big offer when it is somebody of this caliber. And I think WWE and AEW are, anytime there's a big free agent, you got to be careful how much money you're spending. But if Mercedes is commanding the type of money that I have seen rumored, she deserves it. And the reason why she deserves it is because all of the things I've said, the talent that she brings to the table. And I don't think people really understand how big her fan base truly is. But with all of these mixed reportings, this is crazy. It's like I said in the beginning, the whole MJF thing. I thought we'd be talking about MJF, but everybody believes that's a storyline at this point. Everybody believes MJF re-signed, so nobody really cares. But the reality with Mercedes is nobody truly knows what she's going to do. Now, Tony Khan spending a lot of money on Mercedes could be, I mean, it could be a good business decision, and it could be a bad business decision, right?
And she didn't.
At the end of the day, Tony Khan still isn't profitable with AEW, but when somebody of this magnitude is a free agent, it would be stupid not to make an offer. And WWE, they're not necessarily in need of Mercedes. They have a ton of great talent in their company, and their women's division is starting to get on track. But
if you want to have more energy, feel youthful, and look younger, what is the secret? It actually stems in two areas. One, it's your hormonal.
When Mercedes is a free agent and she's interested and you're on good terms with her, you'd be foolish not to bring her back.
Plus, Caden Carter.
Now, why does Mercedes want a lot of money? Well, first and foremost, I don't know if there's been a female free agent
I'm just naming all the
worth this much hype.
It's crazy.
She is deserving of this hype. She is deserving of the hype that fans are giving her, and she has a very dedicated fan base. I mean, if you don't believe me, New Japan World, when she debuted at Wrestle Kingdom, saw 40,000 new signups just from America alone. That's a pretty big deal. Different time zone. It's not easy to watch Japan if you're based out of North America.
I mean, I think somebody
so
said they
a lot of people
Japan,
wanted
like
to see
3 a.m.
Mercedes in New Japan. A lot of people wanted to see her at Battle of the Valley. A lot of people are big fans of her. Now, at the end of the day, what I find more fascinating about this is the mixed report.
That's gonna be like.
There's a lot of people talking about Mercedes because of her free agent status, and I'm gonna be honest. No matter where she goes, you're gonna see the tribalists out everywhere. The anti-WWE people will talk about how WWE fumbled, and the anti-AEW people will talk about how AEW fumbled. But at the end of the day, this is not a question of what company is better. This is a question of which company will pay her more money. And I think both companies are willing to pay her more money. I just think it's going to come down to the company that says we'll pay a little bit more than the other. And that's where she goes. And whether it's AEW or whether it's WWE, I don't think that matters. This is what wrestling has needed for a very, very long time. The fact that multiple companies could do this type of thing is fantastic. I don't think people truly understand how good that actually is. It's a good thing for the talent, but it's a good thing for the industry as well. And I fully expect more stars to jump around different companies. I truly do. There's not going to be one talent leaving their company that truly shocks me. I know Randy Orton says he's a WWE guy. I could see Randy Orton leaving one day. I could see Roman Reigns leaving one day. I could see John Cena leaving one day. I never thought Cody would leave AEW. I never thought CM Punk would get fired from AEW and then go back to WWE after 10 years. I never thought Mercedes would ever leave WWE and go to New Japan and Stardom and then come back and appear at All In and then now become the hottest free agent ever. Like, I've never expected any of this, but it's happened. So there is not one name in wrestling that I can't see leaving their respective company. And guess what, my friends? If that bothers you, then you must not like having fun. Because I promise you, there is nothing better than watching your favorite talent evolve and showcase what they can do. When Drew McIntyre initially left WWE and went to Impact, that guy became the star that I always thought he could be. Same thing could be said for a lot of other people. And look at Cody. He went from being Stardust to the American Nightmare. He did ROH, he did Impact, he did New Japan, he did all of this cool stuff. Then he did AEW. That's fun, man. That's fun. And it's not that deep. But this is the real bidding war. Who's going to pay out the most money? I can't wait to see who does it. And I don't really care where she goes at this point. If she goes to TNA, AEW, or WWE,
not TNA.
As a fan, she'll be on TV every week, and that is something that excites me. So this is the real bidding war, whether you like to admit it or not.
And even if she wasn't, I wouldn't want to just be down there in TNA unless they get bought out by WWE and they allow certain wrestlers to appear on both channels. But anyways, we are not done yet. I don't know why I was ready to end the video. We got so much time. As you see, see. I don't know what quite would I want to react to or watch. Wait, did she? Nah, ain't no way. I would have heard about it. I want to see this real news. All I gotta do is look up Mercedes Monet. They're saying she debuted. She didn't debut. I feel like they clickbaiting at this point. Okay, from what I see now, it would have been going off if she actually debuted. I ain't seen nothing that shows that she debuted for AEW. Wonder why do wrestling channels always does that? They always got a clickbait. I hate that, bro. It's messed up. I'm just looking through here, seeing is there anything I might want to watch.
People fall in love with.
Let's see what this
Here's one thing you need to do before you buy anything online. Don't spend another dime on Amazon until you watch this first.
Watch this. I can show you.
People fall in love with their first image of you. We all fell in love with two best friends, Josh Peck, a chubby but lovable outsider from New York, and Drake Bell, a good-looking guitar player from California. The two teens couldn't be more opposite, but their chemistry together was infectious. While we fondly think of the brotherly love they displayed on television, the dark reality exposed by Josh Peck recently is that they were actually never friends. Let's take it back to where Drake and Josh first met, The Amanda Show. This sketch comedy show was basically Nickelodeon's version of Saturday Night Live starring Amanda Bynes. The show was wildly loved by Nickelodeon fans. Drake Bell was a regular character since the very first episode in 1999. Josh wouldn't become an on-screen regular until seasons 2 and 3. Slowly he was integrated in the show, and those two had some iconic sketches that we still love today. Drake wasn't very fond of Josh in the beginning because he was the only boy on the show, but they had very similar interests in old movies and comedies. They would bounce funny ideas off each other and quickly developed great chemistry. The producer Dan Schneider got some pressure from the network to come up with another buddy comedy just like Keenan and Kel. While filming one of the last episodes of the season where Drake and Josh fight over a shrimp, Stephen Malaro, who was a writer on The Amanda Show, walked over to Dan and was like, "Those two guys are your buddy comedy right there." 6 months later, Drake and Josh was born. Make sure you're hydrated while watching this video.
Drake Bell and Josh Peck. They've grown up on The Amanda Show, battling lobsters, fending off frog puppets, and getting beaten up by girls on a regular basis. So what's next for this dynamic duo? Their own show. Nickelodeon presents Drake and Josh in Drake and Josh.
You will notice in this video how all the tropes, storylines, and character traits in the Drake and Josh show turned out to be the exact opposite of how their real-life futures went. Josh went on to be a very successful, popular, and handsome actor. Megan, aka Miranda Cosgrove, went from evil little girl to sweet, unproblematic, successful actor. And Drake went on to plead guilty to child endangerment while still struggling to get his music career off the ground in America. Drake Parker and Josh Nichols were two brothers bound by their parents' marriage, forced to live in the same house, go to the same school, hang out with the same friends while having totally opposite personalities. Josh was the hefty, emotional dork, while Drake was a smooth-talking ladies' man who led a rock band. The first season was a little more typical to any sitcom, coming up with catchphrases and basic plot lines. Luckily, the show got much better after season 1. They consistently got themselves in ridiculous situations and had to either work together or against each other to get out of them. Like when they came up with a master plan to sell Gary Coleman grills girls, which got them in jail, versus when they were fighting each other over a foam finger. In the beginning, it was very common that Josh was the butt of the joke. I mean, it's very easy to pick on the overweight, goofy kid. Drake, on the other hand, would often be the bad guy. He was lazy, rude, and self-centered. He wouldn't stand up for his brother Josh. He would hang out with girls and friends without him, and basically had a hard time accepting Josh as his brother. As the seasons went on, the audience loved them both. Josh was not a punching bag anymore, and sort of just the sweet, jolly brother who was there for Drake no matter what. Plus, he had lost a lot of weight by the last season, so the fat jokes didn't really work anymore. Drake warmed up to Josh. His character remained the inconsiderate troublemaker, but now Josh was having more luck with girls. He was less nerdy and became more competitive with Drake. Ultimately, at the end of every episode, they resolved their differences and concluded with a happy moment. These two just understood each other when it came to performing. Drake and Josh were the new age Bob Hope and Bing Crosby, Abbott and Costello, Martin and Lewis, Cheech and Chong, Keenan and Kel. They were so good it made us all believe that they were best friends beyond the screen, and I'm sad to admit that that was not the case. Off the show, their lives were pretty normal in the sense that they weren't these mega famous celebrities ducking paparazzi everywhere they go. Plus, remember their target audience was 9 to 15-year-olds who had no way of showing Drake and Josh how much they loved the show. A lot of us forget that in 2005 there was barely any social media, there were no smartphones, no YouTube, no live streams, no follower counts. They worked a 9 to 5 while other kids went to school, and they went home to their families every day just like anyone else. These two just did what most normal teens do: go to parties, hang out with girls, maybe get in some trouble. Well, at least Drake did. Josh wasn't partying much. Josh was actually going through some really tough times. Josh Peck was raised by a single mother. He actually never met his father. He was always interested in being an entertainer, doing stand-up comedy at the age of 9 years old because anything athletic was definitely out of the question. However, he always wanted to fit in. Being an outsider wasn't this cool, interesting thing for kids in the late 90s. Think about popular films and shows glamorizing high school life. You had the jocks, the hot girls, the nerds. Kids like Josh Peck were hoping that they would be a part of the popular crowd and get invited to the parties when high school came. But we all know he wasn't. Drake was very similar to the character he portrayed on the show, a slick Cali bro who had girlfriends and went to parties as a teen. So them being very different worked on the show, but wasn't very practical in real life. I think they mentioned having sleepovers when they were casted on the Amanda show, but as they got older, they didn't hang out in their personal lives. Josh was sick and tired of being this version of himself he hated. It wasn't all vanity though. He knew he would keep getting casted as a fat funny guy for the rest of his career if he didn't make a change. He wanted to have a successful acting career, so that also inspired the weight loss which we witnessed on TV. As he started to lose weight, he was finally starting to fit in with the normal kids. So Josh started to do what normal kids do.
And suddenly I'm like now looking like a normal kid and a normal teen. And I'm like, oh, they do drugs and that's normal. And they go to house parties and they go to clubs.
Josh started acting more like Drake's character, but in real life. It was a double-edged sword. Obviously, he was being accepted socially, but being heavily addicted to drugs was the price he had to pay. By the time they were both 20, Drake and Josh was over. Their relationship, it's complicated. Drake loved his time spent on the show. It was what he always dreamed of. His dad raised him on buddy comedies like Dean and Jerry, Abbott and Costello. Once he met Josh and they got their own TV show, he was living his biggest dream. Plus, he was absolutely adored by the Nickelodeon world. Taking a look at this list of Kids' Choice Awards, which is pretty much the biggest thing you can get as a Nickelodeon star: 2006, Favorite TV Actor, Drake Bell. 2007, Favorite TV Actor, Drake Bell. 2007, Best TV Actor, Drake Bell. 2008, Favorite TV Actor, Drake Bell. It was very clear that Drake was the star and Josh was the co-star, despite Josh being funnier and more memorable in almost every aspect. Drake had full intentions on moving forward with his career alongside Josh, doing more movies and TV shows together just like the buddy comedy duos he idolized. Josh had other plans. Drake was never aware of what Josh was going through behind the scenes. Josh wanted to move on from the show. He was known as the fat funny punching bag who brought way more comedic value to the scene. When we watch these old episodes, we feel happy. Josh sees an underappreciated, depressed, overweight, and insecure child hiding his true feelings from everyone. So he took his own route. Immediately after Nickelodeon, he got a voice acting role as Eddie in Ice Age, got to star in the film The Whackness, which premiered at the Sundance Film Festival and was critically acclaimed. He basically stayed busy every single year since then, having a film or TV role, including the Fox sitcom Grandfathered, where he was a star alongside John Stamos. He became one of the most popular creators on Vine, which is where he would eventually meet David Dobrik, the Paul brothers, the Vlog Squad, and become a popular influencer on YouTube with millions of subscribers. Drake hung around Nickelodeon a little longer. He did star in a terrible Superbad remake movie called College, as well as a poorly received spoof comedy superhero movie. After that, for the next decade, a few small roles in a bunch of random movies that you never heard of. His career stayed alive because of consistent TV work given to him on Nickelodeon. He did tons of different voice acting roles and one-off shows throughout the years. His music career is actually very interesting. Disney knew how to set up their actors' music careers, whereas all Nickelodeon music careers struggled. Drake has no gold or platinum records in America despite releasing music consistently consistently for the past 17 years. However, in Mexico and various Spanish-speaking countries, Drake Bell, aka Drake Campana, is a huge star. He's had multiple high-charting Billboard singles and albums in Mexico. In some of these countries, he does shows for thousands of people. He speaks Spanish, releases all his new music in Spanish, provides Spanish subtitles with everything he does. I'm not really sure how that all happened, but it's been very fruitful for him. In 2014, he filed for bankruptcy, owing over $500,000 in taxes. In 2016, he was arrested for his second driving under the influence charge.
Okay, that's something.
Anything
I thought it was
yet?
all based on when
Chicken salad melts at the middle table.
Here comes the bite.
He served 1 day in jail and 4 years probation. When you're not invited to the wedding, the message is clear. True colors have come out today. Message is loud and clear. Ties are officially cut. I'll miss you, brother. Summer of 2017, Josh got married to his longtime girlfriend Paige, and Drake was not invited. The great fallout of Drake and Josh was the new viral gossip piece, and the internet was loving it. It seemed like just yesterday they were roommates playing ping pong and working at the movie theater. We thought Drake would be the best man. Turns out, he didn't even know about the wedding. The story blew up bigger than Drake could imagine. Thankfully, a couple months later, they made up and did some YouTube content together.
Back together again. We're all good.
Then they both spent the next year or so doing press for other projects, and people just kept asking about the marriage incident. They had already publicly made up, but I guess interviewers wanted the drama. In 2018 and 2019, they made a number of different content pieces together, and it really seemed like their relationship was as good as it can get.
Guys, we're together. What else do you want? What's happening, everybody?
In 2019, Josh came up with the idea to do a reboot of their classic show. The name of the reboot, Josh and Drake. When he reached out to Drake to read the script, things got weird. The idea was that Drake was going to be a failed musician and Josh was a successful real estate agent. They were basically parodying Drake's real life as a musician in Mexico, while Josh's character was a totally made-up life. Maybe they were trying to get back at Drake because his character was originally the cool guy and Josh was the loser. The opening line in the very first episode was supposed to be, "Hug yourself, kid," instead of their trademark saying, "Hug me, brother," which would have just been a slap in the face to the fandom. Then it transitions to Drake in Mexico performing at a quinceañera for the daughter of a drug cartel leader, where they are all drinking and doing hard drugs, which leads to a gunfight, and then they don't want to give Drake his money, which is all a super stereotypical way that Americans convey Mexican culture in Hollywood. Drake didn't want to do the Drake and Josh reboot without making some creative changes because he didn't want to disrespect his Mexican fans. Josh wouldn't let Drake make those creative changes, and shortly after that, Drake started getting into his legal trouble. In 2020, Drake was outed by his ex-girlfriend Melissa on TikTok about how abusive he was in their past relationship, which went pretty viral. Drake denied all claims of physical abuse but admitted he could be verbally abusive like a lot of couples get during a fallout. This story led to multiple other accusations, including one that would make the courtroom. He pled guilty via Zoom to a felony attempted child endangerment and a misdemeanor charge of disseminating matter harmful to juveniles in June of 2021. But Drake was accused of much worse, including sending explicit pictures and engaging in sexual activity with a minor. However, he only admitted guilt of sending text messages that were sexual and then stopped once he was aware of the victim's age. The situation is definitely creepy. And there are a lot of other factors to consider which have been broken down extensively on YouTube. But the internet is not convinced that Drake is innocent of the harsher things he was accused of. His social reputation has obviously been ruined because of this. Which leads us to today. Josh Peck recently made some big claims on a podcast that he and Drake were never friends.
Are you guys like not friends?
Not really, no.
He told a number of different lies on these podcasts that are starting to make fans question everything.
I knew that Drake and I didn't stay in touch for the 10 years since we had made the show, but no one needed to know that.
Here they are in 2012 at what appears to be a house party. Here they are spending Christmas together in 2013. Here are multiple instances of them hanging out in 2014. In 2015, they had Drake come on Josh's show Grandfathered.
I think it's just an opportunity for Drake and I to be working together again, and obviously we love each other.
Plus, Drake says that they talked when Josh announced that he was engaged. To suggest that they at least didn't stay in touch is wild.
He was surprised he wasn't invited then? If he's going bananas on you?
He's surprised, but then he takes to the internet and he starts writing these tweets that immediately like catch fire. And so then he like leans in and goes on this press tour about how heartbroken he is.
Drake tweeted 2 things and the internet dragged them out. Plus, there was no press tour. Then 2 months after that, they made up publicly and made some YouTube content together. After they made up publicly, Drake and Josh throughout the next year would talk about the marriage incident in various interviews. So I think Josh is just remembering things incorrectly.
I was at the Video Music Awards and I see him there and he sees me. And I go up to him, like, and this might be the most Sopranos thing I've ever done. And I look at him and I go apologize to my wife right now.
Josh literally filmed himself walking up to Drake. Does this look like how a gangster moves?
And is that the last communication?
Pretty much.
The VMAs was in August of 2017. Since then, they have filmed multiple YouTube videos together, worked on a Drake and Josh reboot, and I can only imagine they spent time together in their personal lives as well. That is not even close to the last time that they've had communication. Drake just recently started a podcast called Drake and Janet, with the same branding, which is just kind of weird, bro, like let it go. Drake still says nothing but good things about Josh and wants nothing more for them to be friends again. After all, the Drake and Josh show was the biggest and most successful thing that Drake has ever done, which isn't the same thing for Josh. He has absolutely destroyed his social reputation, and him repairing his relationship with Josh might be the only thing that could win over the people's trust again. However, it's pretty evident that Josh wants nothing to do with Drake. While he may be lying about them never being friends, he has made it very clear that since the show ended in 2007, he wanted to no longer be the secondary character, the fat funny guy, Drake's sidekick, and he worked extremely hard to build a career off his comedy and create a vision. Who could have ever guessed that their real life situation would turn out exactly like the episode Josh has done?
Come on, dude, I said I was sorry.
Yeah, I heard you.
Well, stop being mad at me.
I'm not mad at you. I'm done.
What is that supposed to mean?
Well, I don't want anything to do with you anymore.
Josh, what? Look, I'm sorry. Well, look, let me finish, okay? I was wrong, okay? I was wrong.
What do you mean?
I need you more than you need me. I need you way more than you need me, all right? I'm sorry. I just need you to understand that... Sorry, Josh, I'm sorry.
Switch to Chrome to protect yourself from malware, so you can surf without getting phished. Fast?
I think y'all watching all. Wrestling is supposed to come on in like 20 minutes. I'll be back in 20 minutes, y'all.